Welcome everyone, and for those of you returning, thank you so much for your generous support in the last World Tour video. Today, we will finally be updating this 1.16.5 world to the modern version, 1.21.4, thus officially marking the start of Season 2 for this series. But before we go about doing that, I just want to finish collecting a little bit of ancient debris that's left over in the most recently excavated Nether Quadrant. I do have a lot of gear that needs to be converted to netherite before we need the upgrading templates, so I'll get right to it. So if you didn't catch the most recent stream, basically we went through all of this area that's been cleared out, gathered the ancient debris, and then replaced those mine blocks with sea lanterns. Since then, I've mined out a little bit more, so we're just going to gather the stragglers and add them to this current collection. If I had to guess, it'll be about half a stack more, but we'll see. Alright, so I've smelted up that stuff and we have quite a few ingots now. So I didn't smelt up all of the ancient debris, I kept a little bit just as leftover in case we need it for a redstone build. I have my backup supply here, but overall that gave quite a bit. Yeah, that's 10 netherite blocks. Pretty good haul. And we're gonna need it because I have all of these shovels that I want to just have in case we go about gathering a bunch of sand or red sand again in one of the faraway Badlands biomes. And then I have backup gear for both fire protection as well as blast protection if we ever need these, and some extra axes if we want to really go to town with tree gathering, wood gathering, all that stuff, and some random tools that I have. These are mostly fortune, huh? And I also made this diamond hoe just because we're going to need a lot of that with all the new blocks and harvesting the moss and things like that. So I'll go ahead and upgrade this gear. And then I think at that point we're pretty much ready. Okay, so that's all done. We have a lot of netherite to spare actually. That's a good amount. I'm gonna go ahead and make blocks of it just because I like that. Yeah, that's a lot of netherite. Oh, and the shovels are done as well. Alright, so I think that does it. We are good to go. So I did move all the stuff from my ender chest into this chest just to make sure that nothing weird goes about happening. And you all can access it if I host a backup of this world on the 1.16 version. So there's that, but we are good to go. And I'm smiling ear from ear right now because I've been preparing for this for so long and I have been waiting a very long time to update the world. I'm so excited, and alright, I will see you on the other side. So prior to the last clip, it's actually been 2 days, and I guess that's what I get for trying to update a 10 gigabyte world from 16.5 all the way to 21.4 in a sequential manner. So I did this with optimizing the world, and curiously I ran into issues doing this on version 20.1 and 20.4. Essentially the client just crashed about 300 to 400k chunks into the optimization and would not progress despite multiple attempts. So hopefully that didn't cause any issues because all I did was just go to the next version and started to optimize the world from there, but we'll see. I have not tested out the world beforehand, so this is like the genuine reaction and just, this is the real thing. So if you'll bear with me and hopefully there's no technical challenges, we'll get right to finding new terrain because I am just so excited. So excited. Alright, here we go. I don't know why I unlocked colored shulkers there, but that's okay. Looks like everything is in tip-top shape. Yeah, okay. Continuity mod is working, so that's nice to see. Whoa, different color. Okay, here's all the stuff from the ender chest. Let me back up the world right now, just in case, because I definitely forgot to do that. Okay, so it does look like everything is in good order, and so what I've done is I've relocated all the shulkers, and I put them back in the ender chest. So as to where we're going, You might think that because we're over here and we have unloaded stuff to the south and also to the northwest, we would want to go in those areas, but actually, I want to prune those chunks and make them nice and clean, so those are out of contention for now. What we're going to do is we're just going to go westward and go pretty far, so I have to show you on the other map. Alright, so basically, I've loaded all of this, but I haven't bothered to load anything past this area. So this is where we're going to be going. Oh my gosh, I've just been waiting for this for so long, so without further ado, I'll get the rockets, we'll head right over, and we'll get to adventuring. Okay, so I've written down the locations in our notebook, and this is where we're going to be going. And so with that, let's get to it. This is going to be awesome. I'm just delighted. Okay, so with that, we'll be on our way. Would you look at that? Talk about peaceful. Alright, so it does look like I loaded the chunks to about 11,000, so I'm not sure if the original plan is going to work with regards to some of these things that I'm looking for. I guess we're at the Cherry Grove, which did happen to not be loaded already, so that's good, but I'll definitely have to change the location of the Stony Peaks as well as that Pale Garden. So no problem, I can do that, but yeah, let me just start collecting one of these trees. How about this one? Ah, so cool. There we go. Alright. And in usual fashion, I'll go ahead and make some maps so I don't get lost. Wow, it's just so breathtaking seeing these really, really large mountains in this world now. It makes you appreciate the wait, I suppose. So there should be a Pale Garden to the north of here, as well as a itty bitty tiny one to the south and also to the west. So we'll check out the northern one, as it seems to be the largest. And so if we're around a dark oak forest, or dark forest, okay, sure, yep. So I'm probably going to collect quite a bit of these trees. Just knowing my luck with dark oak saplings, I'll need a lot of these to make sure it's sustainable. And who knows, maybe we'll encounter the night in this biome as well. It's quiet. Too quiet. Oh, the flower. All right. Why didn't these bloom? Oh, that's a fire. It should go out, I think. Oh, an azalea tree. Is that fire? Why is so much stuff burning? No, what? Stop. Okay, this is kind of bad. I need to probably put this out. What's scarier than the creaking? Fire. Okay, fire's out and the sun's up. That was a little anticlimactic, but that's okay. Do believe we got everything we need from this biome. For the time being, at least. I guess we can get Lush Cave stuff right now, too. My eyes do not deceive me. This is our first copper in the world. Alright, don't mind if I do. Alright, we're in. There's our first moss. Yoink. Oh, a spore blossom. I Guess I'll risk it and try and get down here. Diamond. Another diamond. That was a lot of diamonds. Okay. I'm surprised there's not one axolotl down here. Oh, more diamond. I am seriously worried I'm going to get lost, though. Oh, a glow squid! Alright. Is that... Oh dear. Wait, this doesn't make any sense. What? Oh, it was fog. Oh, okay. Okay. There are diamonds everywhere, that's for sure. Oh, Tuft! Look, it's Tuft! Look! I am just like a kid on Christmas Day. There's so many things I want to grab and explore down here, but we have finite time in a single episode. Okay, I don't see an ancient city, nor do I even want to bother with that today. So I guess we'll go back up here. Okay, so we got quite the haul from both that lush cave as well as this pale forest. I'm gonna go ahead and head towards the Badlands biome to the west, and yeah, from there we'll get the mangrove items. Whoa, that horse scared me. Okay. Are you fast? Oh, goodness, you are fast. Okay, and we're friends now. So, the reason I'm taming a horse is because I do want to get frogs back to our base. And you can't do that with an elytra as far as I can... Really? You can't do that with an elytra as far as I know. So we will have to travel by foot, which I believe is 4 maps worth of distance away, but yeah. Anyways, we've stopped at this village and it's on fire. Okay, what is with fire in this episode? This is... Well, okay. Maybe they shouldn't have built the house there, but... Save the bed! And I did not. Okay, well... This was not my fault. Alright, anyways, we are at the Badlands biome now. It was not too far of a distance from the area we were just flying at, so that's good. And so, as I understand it, I believe the mangrove swamp is over to the west part of this. And wow, this looks different. Oh, that's an armadillo. Hey friend, what are you up to? Okay. This is so cute. Look at it go. You gonna let me pet you? No, you're just gonna push me out of the way. You got places to be, I get it, I get it. And I frightened them. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of armadillos here. I suppose they're pretty common. What doesn't seem common is red sand now. Yeah, while there's some here, I mean, everything we've loaded thus far has not had a lot of it. Ooh, this is intimidating. This is so high. It took like 3 rockets. Okay, actually, I think it's to the south of this wooded Badlands area. Aha, there it is. Alright. Look at these cool trees. Oh, that's just awesome. Oh, it's right by another village. Excellent. I didn't know bees like this area. Okay. I don't know which one is full length, but I'm gonna guess that one. Awesome. So I guess they can try and pollinate these propagules. Oh, and there's mud! Let's go! Oh. I have so much dirt saved up to make plenty of this later. Ooh, what a fun sound too. So where are the frogs? I suppose I can make one more map here, since we are technically outside the border of the previous map. I did not expect this swamp to be that big. Also, what are these two trees doing here? What? Okay. That's fine. Yep. This new terrain, I mean, it's beautiful, but I'm just so not used to it. I'm just like, whoa. I was going to say the word unnerved, but I don't think that's the appropriate word. I'm out of my element, let's just say that. I think that's the best way to put it. And I'm pretty overwhelmed from excitement. Good thing, good thing. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is I want to get some calcite from some stony peaks. There should be one just to the north of this mangrove swamp, so we're gonna go get it. Is that it? Oh yeah, that's it. Alright, there it is. Ow. Alright, so there's like a decent amount of the block here. This will take a while, so I'm probably not going to record most of it. Yeah, sorry if this is kind of a gathering adventure episode. We will get to building today, so worry not, but until then, I'm just so overwhelmed by all these new blocks and things in the world. Alright, I'll collect this and then report back. Okay, so it's been some time since I last recorded, and since then I've spent a little bit of time resource gathering in between editing, around in this new area, and just taking a look around. As a result, I've pretty much filled up all the shulkers in the ender chests, and so I think it's time to head home, but not without some new animal friends, which fortunately, down here on the lower part of this map, I did encounter these frogs. And as you can see, there's two variants. This orange one, which I think is dry climates, as well as this beige one, which I'm not sure... Hi, Bob. As well as this beige looking one that I'm not really sure what climate they're in. What do you have for us, Bob? Interesting, okay. Well, that's kind of timely because I need to get out the lead chest anyways. Thanks, Bob. I could have used this cherry trade earlier, but that's okay. Emeralds are cheap and abundant. Alright, so I mentioned that there's quite a bit of distance to travel. We do have our horse friend, and fortunately I found a saddle in a spider dungeon when I was caving around here, so we can use that. I plan to bring 2 of these frogs over to our horse. We'll get them the saddle, and then also, I completely forgotten I was going back through the footage. We have camels now, and there was definitely one at that desert village where we stopped at, which is kind of to the right, the northeast corner of this map. And so I think it would also be wise, since we're doing all this on foot, to also bring some camels back, seeing as how we have multiple desert areas next to the base, and it would just be really cool to have like a caravan. And so I'll go about finding those camels, finding our horse, and making the trip back. Okay, let's get to it. So after about 2 hours of journeying back, both by boat and foot, we have returned to our archipelago, and we are more or less home. So, for those of you who watched the end episode, this was the village that we had stopped by as we were trying to find the end portal, which is right over there. So to give you a frame of reference, the Alchemy Island is just to the southeast of here, and obviously to the south of that is home. So we are very close by, and I have decided for the rest of this episode to build out this village using our new blocks. So more or less, we have brought a bunch of new supplies, and we're going to revitalize the economy of this village, and more or less update it, and just try and build with the new blocks as both an experimentation and as a way to fortify this village, because in that end episode, these poor villagers were subjected to quite a few mob attacks, and although we were able to fend them off, I definitely think that these villagers deserve a little more protection and just a, I guess, nicer place, because this is somewhat of a peninsula, and so they are prone to ambush due to being surrounded by ocean on all sides. So for the general themes of this village, what I'm going to go about building is something that's both protected as well as sturdy. And so one of the blocks we brought over is tuft. So I'm really thinking we can use this to build a very sturdy wall along this perimeter where they're prone to ambush, and also just incorporate stronger buildings and a more defensive village, if that makes sense. Oh, last but not least, we did not grab the horse because that was quite a ways out of the way. And so ultimately I ended up journeying, if you can see in the left hand, up that river system. And while we were passing the cherry grove that we had initially discovered, we picked up this chicken in the middle of the river. I think we'll name her Cherry as testament to where we found her. But yeah, that's what we have for our animal friends and our journey home. So hopefully you've stayed with me this far, and looking forward to building out this reinforced village. I have good progress to report. So first things first, I installed the FreeCam mod, and shout out to ETAT and friends for encouraging me to give the mod a go. It's been really helpful in building this wall, actually. I thought it would be harder to use, but it turns out it's pretty intuitive. Alright, so using the mod, you can see that I've built the wall, as well as this area over here near the entrance of the village. The wall, I would say, is more or less complete. It looks decent, and I've added these end rods because due to the proximity of the end portal, which is literally right past that mountain over there, I thought it was appropriate to include end-related materials in the construction of this build, but not going too overboard. So I thought that the end rods would make a nice little reinforcement here. These are also nice because they light up the area outside the wall, and so this should prevent mob spawning. And for the top of the wall, since the majority of this build is constructed with tuff, I wanted to add a little bit of color using mangrove wood. So that has been incorporated at the gate entrance as well as throughout the wall. I'm not sure if I should space it between every other section of the wall. And what I mean by that is putting the trapdoors above the deep slate regions of the wall. So I'm undecided as to that. But otherwise, I would say the wall is more or less finished. So for this open area over here, you can see that I've laid out the paths, but it doesn't really make too much sense without the accompanying structures built where they're supposed to be. So the structure I'm going to build is fairly large. In fact, aside from the black stone boulder that I've built over at home, this will be the largest natural structure I've ever constructed in the game. So that will be a treat and also a challenge. The structure is meant to complement the wall as well as the defensive theme of the village, in that this area will protect against arrow attacks from the skeletons, because a wall is only going to stop them from getting inside. In theory, they could shoot the arrows over and cause havoc to the village. So this structure was designed with that in mind. So seeing as how it's pretty big and I've already designed it in creative, I think it is most appropriate for a time lapse. So real quick, I'm going to farm a little bit of honeycomb because we'll need this for the build. So I'll build a temporary bee farm so we can harvest the honeycomb, and then I will get to work on this time lapse. I'll probably just cut straight to the time lapse. So yeah, enjoy. Okay, so it's been about a week since that last cut and time-lapse. Work has been pretty hectic as of late, but not much I can do about that. But as you can see, this humble seaside town has finally been revamped to withstand the troubles from the outside world. Alright, so first things first, the caravan structure. So hopefully after the time-lapse you can see why I made the paths in the shape that I did, as they are meant to depict the movements of the caravans in and out of this structure. The rock feature itself is inspired from plateaus, and I tried to imagine what it would look like if the villagers, say, hollowed this out in order to make this shelter for the trade caravan. And because they've dug out all this area underneath, naturally this would need to be supported with pillars. In retrospect, I think it would have been better to make these pillars a little bit thicker and offer more support, since this is a lot of weight for them to bear for the entirety of the structure. But we didn't have unlimited space to play with, so this will do. In terms of the inside of the rock, I did want to make it a little bit cozy, as in they're really just trying to maximize the efficiency of putting the caravans back here, and they're doing their best to shelter whatever goods, either here as a temporary measure or in these other buildings where they're intended to be. And also, I really like how, given the size of these caravans, they fit pretty well in the dimensions that we are constrained to in this area. As you can see, I made 3 different types, and these are meant to reflect the new types of wood that we now have access to, and so that is a result of these trade routes to the west. So naturally you have the pale oak, you have the bamboo, and lastly you have the cherry grove, which I somewhat combined with the mangrove swamp logs, because it really wouldn't make sense to have a caravan trading system in a swamp where it would get stuck, and that just wouldn't work. Also, we have the space constraints to consider, so I figured 3 is good. And I think they turned out pretty cool. Not an overly complicated or detailed design, but it's got the wheels, it's got the windows, a little bit of draping here to keep out the sun and give a little bit of privacy to those riding inside, and of course, a little bit of storage for their precious cargo. Also, another thing I've kind of realized just now, this is the first build, or I guess builds, that I have used wool in this entire world, which is kind of unbelievable in a way, but also I'm really happy how these turned out, given that this is my first time building with wool. And although these caravans have a pretty simple design, they have their charm, and I think they turned out pretty good. I'm really enjoying the use of FreeCam for visualizing all these builds. It's kind of a game changer, to be honest. Okay, so moving to this actual structure itself, I was also pretty inspired by rock formations that one would find in the Wadi Rum Desert, which is in the country of Jordan. Granted, Tuff is a different block as opposed to what you would find there, but the shape, if you were to Google these images, looks pretty similar, and in fact, I'll throw something up. So from the distance, I really wanted this rock structure to have this very impactful presence when viewed from afar. So it overlooks the wall even, and it's intimidating, but it's also just a stable foundation, something that's been there for a long time, and certainly daunting to anyone trying to besiege this place. Since this is a pretty large structure, in fact the largest natural structure that I built, I did want to make sure that it was mob-proof, and so I added these pillar lights as a means of decorating this area and kind of fitting this lamppost theme throughout the entire village. Additionally, I wanted to include some candles to make it look like people might come up here at night and they use the candles as lighting and just hang out on this large structure to look out into the desert beyond. It's during the day, but at night, it really does give a nice, impactful presence from the distance, and the lighting, I think, really finishes off this structure and makes it unique. Okay, so for the rest of the build, I guess we can move on over here. I built this little import and export office, and although the villagers seem to want to work inside these caravans due to the barrels, nobody seems to want to work in the office right now, but I didn't really have too many details, just wanted to keep it simple, something that would provide shelter from the weather even though it doesn't really rain here, but just to show that it's an import and export office, have a little bit of goods, paperwork, and a desk, as well as some of these very unique plants. Also, as this village is in close proximity to the end portal, like literally right over there, in fact, I can probably just show it with FreeCam. So yeah, that cove over there has the end portal. So due to its proximity, I came up with a lore that in addition to these items from the west, the villagers also specialize in end-related goods. And we'll get a little bit more into that later, but that's also why we have the end flag here, in addition to this brown banner, which for now is just the placeholder flag for this village. So I did keep these light fixtures the same, and so because there's a lot of movement from the village gate and this caravan area, there's a lot of mud that's tracked in, which is why there's mostly dirt in this area with just little patches sparsed here and there throughout the village. Please ignore our beehive structure over there, which is temporary. But yeah, that's why the rest of the village has sandstone and tuft incorporated, as it's more of a traditional desert village that you would find more or less out in the overworld. And so going with the lore that the villagers hollowed out this tuft rock to build the rest of the village, you can see that the other structures have correspondingly been built with this block. And so I relocated the cows over to this area, giving them a better seaside view, which is pretty luxurious for cows, I would say. Didn't really change too much here, just wanted to give them a basic structure and just make them at home. I did keep their grass, so hopefully they're happy. To the left here, so I wanted to make this more of a guard outpost. So although these caravans are sheltered, certainly we would want to have a small little force to defend them in the instance that there are raiders or thieves along the trade routes. And so we have this garrison-like structure here. I only included one bed, but more or less it's just provisions for them to camp out here and be at the ready in case they're needed to guard the caravans. So fairly simple structure. I didn't want to make it too detailed. Up here you have a small little archery range where I included these little portholes, which should in theory allow the archers to defend the caravan as needed from their vantage point. Also, you might be wondering why this structure is quite asymmetric and what on earth all of this is. So my thought was that because arrows are always going to be coming from the west part of the village over to this, they're going to be shot over the structure and into the village, they need some sort of wall defense or barricade to prevent such a thing from happening. And so I built these fortified walls by just kind of layering on the tuft walls. And hopefully this looks like a pretty sturdy and rigid structure that would prevent arrows from piercing these homes. But that was the design theme that I came up with the rest of the village, because this is a pretty tough village in that they're resilient against these kinds of attacks. And so continuing on with this theme here, adding a little bit of greenery, but again a very sturdy structure, this time to both sides, because I wanted to build this one symmetric, and again keeping consistent with the theme of these lanterns as well as the use of end rods on the exterior. Here's the fountain. Not much has changed. The villagers still enjoy mingling over here. Granted, it's not super protected, but what I'm thinking of for the future is perhaps we can build some sort of watchtower structure in the water, which is accessible only from land on the inside of the village. That way, this area is also guarded from invasion by a short swim over. That's what I was thinking, but given the complexity and height of this tower, as well as the number of details, I wanted to save this for a later time, because most certainly I want to get this episode out as soon as I can. In any case, you can kind of see how the lighting works at night for this structure. This cat really likes to hang out on it, but I did want to make this area a little bit flat. Maybe the villagers can find a use for this area, or maybe people sneak up here and just like look at the desert sunset or the desert plains at night. Right, so I'll go ahead and sleep again in the interest of keeping the village safe, and this time we'll go in this house. Alright, so keeping with the rest of the theme of the village and how it's a trading point and hub, I wanted to have a little bit of storage and theme built into these houses. So as you can see, this villager lives a pretty simple life, but they know how to take care of these cherry trees, which need a lot of water, and so you can see that they're getting their ample supply here. And likewise, for this other house over here, I wanted them to take care of the mangrove trees. So definitely keeping production of goods flowing to the rest of the world. Since this house was a little bit in the open and kind of close to the town square, I also built a second floor for archeries and defense, again going with these small holes where they can use to shoot out arrows to defend the village, and it nicely gets right to the other side. Likewise, they could do it here, and then also maybe there's a watch person at all times, just kind of making sure nothing's causing a stir in the village square. For the fountain, I didn't really go too wild with it. In fact, it's probably a little too big for this central area, but I still like it. Kept it pretty simple, wanted to include the end rods, and then wanted to go with this very symmetric design and keeping it well lit. And last but not least, we have this final house, which I really did not change much. I added a little bit of more defensive protection because they have to watch out for these arrow attacks at all times, right? But inside, so we have the end banner. And why is that? It's because this nitwit lives here. And so the lore I came up for this villager is that they have been trying to escape and swim out here around the wall. I want to say like 4 or 5 times since I've constructed this place. And so clearly they want to get out. And so what I thought of is that, okay, they're the individual responsible for all of these end goods. So they have a tendency to sneak into the end portal and smuggle, trade, who knows, but they come back and they have all these end goods. And in fact, they even planted the tree here. So although this villager does cause some trouble with their escapes, certainly they have a pretty pivotal role to play in the village's economy, and they are the local expert of the end. So I haven't thought of a name for them yet, but if anybody has like any names that would relate with the end, please feel free to comment below, because this villager is just too funny with their lore and their behavior. But anyways, I gave them their own house because they live there and they're just so enthused by the end. They're like an end enthusiast, I guess. So as for the rest of the village, I did not have time to include details, unfortunately, so I did not have the chance to relocate this farm, but certainly there's definitely room for more expansion and improvement for this area, especially in the dock. Like, it has potential. Please ignore that. It will not be there in the future. The good news with this eyesore is that we have plenty of beeswax, so we can get right to messing around with copper in the next episode, and also probably mud. But I still haven't actually made any of that, so I would like to try it on camera now, before I do forget. Okay, so let's see if I actually know how to do this. Okay, and I'm guessing like over time this dries, or you just craft it. Okay, well, I don't know how to use mud, I'll look it up, but this is the first mud we have. But for now, I think that'll about do it for this episode. It's been quite a long production cycle, I will say. I have been working on this pretty consistently for the last 2 months, but I really wanted to up the production quality since I kind of now have the luxury to with this new computer. And also, it's just wild that we updated this world and then used all these new blocks to build this, basically this whole village anew in a single episode. So for all of you who are watching to this point, thank you so much. And it's been really, really heartwarming and just encouraging to see all the new subscribers and enthusiasm for this world. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the construction of this little Tuff village and all of the world updating that we did in this episode. So with that, I wish you a wonderful rest of your week. Take care and see you next time.